the 2023 African Cup of Nations is only 10 months away. So I thought it would be the perfect time to release way too early Afcon preview. And the way we're going to be breaking it down is in a tier list, because I know there's probably not enough of those on YouTube already. But I do think it's quite a practical way to organize my thoughts. So we're going to break it down into 3 tiers, as you can see here on the computer. We're going to have the favorites. These are the teams that I think are ready to go right now. They don't need any work, and they can will be considered favorites to win the competition. From there, we're going to go into the teams that need work, meaning that they have the potential to win it, but there are things that I'm not too in love with, considerable room for improvement, really. And then finally, we're going to go, the last category is the teams that won't win. These are teams that I think are going to be at the tournament, even though we're only in match day 3 of Afcon qualifying. But I don't think they can win it. Their ceiling is not there, really. And it's going to be probably fun to revisit that in the coming months. So the favorites, and I'm going to start with the hosts. Like in every real Afcon, you always got to put the hosts as one of the favorites. There's going to be, a lot of pressure, a lot of support. And I think the Ivory Coast have enough talents to be considered a favorite. So when it comes to player by player, they could be the most talented squad in Africa. Wilfred Zaha, Nicolas Pepe, Sébastien Haller, Ibrahim Sangare in midfield, Franck Kessié. Really, in every position, from defense to attack, they have players that are capable of playing UEFA Champions League football. The real questions with them is playing at home. Is that going to be too much pressure? Number one. They have a new coach, Jean-Louis Gasset from France, and I don't know too much about him, to be honest. He used to coach Saint-Etienne, Bordeaux. In the shortlist, there was also Antoine Comboiré, Frédéric Hont. These are two other French coaches, but they decided to go with Gasset. And again, I just don't know too much about him so far. His record is kind of mediocre. So just simply because they're the hosts and because they have so much talent on paper, I'm going to put them as one of the favorites. The other favorites are going to be Senegal, and I think that's pretty evident why. Senegal are the defending champions. You always almost have to have the defending champions as favorites. They had a decent showing at the World Cup, but they were missing Sadio Mane, and that ended up hurting them. Senegal under Aliou Cissé had made it to the quarterfinals of the 2017 Afcon. They made it to the final of the 2019 Afcon, and then they won the 2021 Afcon. And they're pretty much coming back with the same squad. And that is a reason for concern as well, because when you look at players like Kalidou Koulibaly, Sadio Mane, Idrissa Gana Gueye, these are really it's the skeleton of their side, the spine of their side. And those players have all dropped off for one reason or another, whether it's injury, whether it's they're not playing at a super high level. They've all sort of dropped off. And as a result, I kind of have questions about Senegal in that sense. But because they're defending champions, because they're coming back with such an experienced core, and because they do have younger players that can step into that void, which they haven't yet, but they can do it. Players like midfielder Pape Matar Sarr, Ismail Assar, these are players that have flashed, but we haven't really seen them carry the team. Still, I think Senegal are going to be favorites. And my final favorite is going to be Morocco. We all saw what Morocco did at the 2022 World Cup in Qatar. They are also ready to go now and play in Afcon. They know who their best 11 are. They have the coach in place. And they're riding on that momentum, that high of really shocking the world and setting African records at a World Cup. My one slight concern with Morocco is that they got the results that they got at the World Cup because they had set up in a specific way, meaning that they were set up in that, it's not a defensive 4-3-3, but it was very compact, and then they would spring into attack. I don't think they're going to play like that at the Afcon. When you're playing, a Gambia, when you're playing a Mauritania, these are teams that would prefer to probably not have the ball and let you have the ball. And in that sense, I wonder if Morocco is going to have as much success when they have more possession of the ball. I believe the only match where they had more possession of the ball at the World Cup was France. I need to be corrected on that. But I'm wondering now, when they have possession of the ball, can they be as successful? And that's something that we're going to have to see. But because of their track record at the World Cup, because their coach is ready, their squad, they know who their squad is going to be, they're going to be one of my favorites. So I have three favorites: Ivory Coast, Senegal, and Morocco. The second tier is needs work. And here I have 6 nations that I think could win it. Their ceiling is high enough that they could become champions. But I have some questions. Either their squad is not ready, they have a new coach, so many things that we could really debate. They're not really at that level of Senegal or Morocco, and they're not going to have the push that Ivory Coast has from hosting this tournament. So, needs work. Number 1, Nigeria. I'm going to start with Nigeria because, in my opinion, they have the best performing attacking players at the moment in Europe. Everybody's talking about Victor Osimhen and what Napoli are doing in Serie A, but you also have players like Ademola Lookman, also in Serie A, who's, I believe, second or third top scorer in Italy. You have Terem Moffi, who's really impressed since he made his winter move in France. You have players like Teo Ioni, so really they're stacked up front. And I think if they manage to find the right formula for the attack, they'll have that ceiling to really push and go far. My problem with Nigeria, I don't know too much about Pesero, to be honest, their coach. Goalkeeping, that's the reason why they were eliminated out of the World Cup against Ghana. The goalkeeper, Francis Ozo, let in a really weak goal. And I still have questions about that. But I just want to know, I think Osimhen Moffi is the duo you need in attack, but how do you build behind that? Is it going to be a diamond 4-4-2? Is it going to be some sort of 3-5-2, something like that? Or are you going to bring in somebody like Kelechi Iheanacho and play like a 3-4-3? I don't know how it could work. But Nigeria, they also have very shallow depth in midfield. They have, I think, 3 good midfielders in Didi, Aribo, and Iwobi. But behind that, who? So they need work, in my opinion. But they do have the pieces to go far. Next on my list is going to be Ghana. And it's similar to Nigeria with Ghana. I mean, they went to the World Cup. I always thought that they were too young and they had cobbled together a squad too quickly before the World Cup to really do something. But now they have Chris Hughton in charge, so that's a new coach. So that's always going to raise questions. They brought in a lot of talent before the World Cup. They haven't really made it into a cohesive 11 yet. So that's going to be my question. That's what I'm going to see in these next 10 months. Can they make it into a cohesive 11? When I see the Ayew brothers, I mean, no offense, but I think these things are going to be done the same old way. I want to see younger players. I want to see, the Kudus really become the main player in this team alongside Partey. I want to see Sulemana. I want to see even... Well, Isahaku's not ready yet, but players like that, I want to see what Iñaki Williams can do. Give me a new Black Stars 11, make them cohesive and send them to Ivory Coast and let's see what they can do. So we have Nigeria, Ghana in the needs to work category. We'll throw in Mali in there. And Mali is the perennial dark horse. Mali, we know every year they have probably the best central midfielders on the continent. Yves Bissouma, Mohamed Kamara, who's been so good with Monaco this year. Amadou Haidara, Diadji Semaseku. I think you're going to take those 4, put them into a diamond. The strikers, who? I don't want to see Khalifa Koulibaly, to be honest. I think we've seen what he can do, his maximum. Give me an El Bilal Toure, give me Ismaila Kone up top, and then figure out the defense. And the defense was the reason why Mali didn't make the World Cup. They were pretty comedic in the back. But they have a new coach, Eric Sekushela, which again brings questions. I like the hire. It's another hire, in Africa where we are going to be using a former player, former international that went and got the coaching badges in Europe and is ready to go and play, and is ready to go and coach his homeland, like Aliou Cisse, like Jamal Belmadi, like Walid Regragui. So Mali, I think, could do something. They just need to figure out the defense, and hopefully this coach is a good hire. I haven't seen enough of him to make that decision yet. Still in the needs work category, we're going to put Algeria. And Algeria, it was really weird because... it was 12 months ago? 12 months ago, I believe, Algeria was on top of the world, maybe 14, 15 months ago, chasing, a world record in undefeated matches, Arab Cup champions, African champions, and then what do you know? They crash out in the Afcon, eliminated to Cameroon, eliminated by Cameroon in World Cup qualifying. And Jamal Belmadi was building this squad so that it would peak at the World Cup, the 2022 World Cup. They didn't make the World Cup, and now I wonder, again, same question as Ghana, can he bring in talent and make a cohesive 11 before the Afcon in the Ivory Coast? They're bringing in Lyon midfielder Houssam Mouar, they're bringing in Wolves left back Rayan Ait Nouri, there are some rumors that they're going to bring in Werder Bremen right back Mitchell Weiser. Lots of different talent is really going to come in, I think, in the next 6 months for Algeria. What is Belmadi going to do with all of that? Even in midfield, he has so many great midfielders, but he hasn't really been able to say, okay, these are my 3 midfielders that I'm going to roll with. So that's my question with Algeria and Belmadi. What can they do in the next 6 months to prove to me and the rest of the public that they're ready, they have their starting 11, and they're going to go to the Afcon with that? Another country that I think is going to need work, Burkina Faso. Burkina Faso, I mean, when Jose Mourinho talks about football heritage, 3 Afcon semifinals in the last 5. Another perennial dark horse, like we think with Mali, but they actually justify it. And the difference with, a Burkina Faso for me and some of the teams that I don't think will win, the reason why I think they can win is because they're on the ascendancy. When you look at players like, Edmond Tapsoba, Issa Kabore, Dango Ouattara, Gustavo Sangare, these are all players that are, on this side, the younger side of 25, hitting their stride. And I think, with the right coaching, with the right momentum, Burkina Faso is a team that can definitely grow into their prime at the right moment in the Ivory Coast. So Burkina Faso is a team that I think has the ceiling to win it. But because they're so young, and because they're probably not as talented, as in Algeria, Nigeria, Senegal, they're a team that I'm going to put in this tier of need work. And my final team in the need work is, I don't know if I can fit them in here, but it's going to be Egypt. Hold on, everybody's got to scooch over. Egypt. And Egypt is a side to me that... Again, you talk about Burkina Faso making 3 semifinals in the last 5 Afcons. Egypt have made 2 finals in the last 3 Afcons. However, they've made it each time playing very defensively and relying on Mohamed Salah to create things in attack, which I think if they do again, if they play that kind of style again, they can probably win it. But I think they have to play that style. I don't think this is the Egypt of the Shahata, the mid-2000s to late 2000s. That's going to play a 3-5-2, hold on to the ball, play attractive football, and wow everybody. This is very much in Egypt that's, you need your Tariq Hamids, you need your, all these like scrappy Amr Souleyas, these scrappy midfielders that are going to grab the ball, that are going to make it miserable for the opposition midfield. And then you need Salah, Mustafa Mohamed, somebody else, Zizou, pick anybody, Marmoush on the other wing, and hope that those attackers can conjure some kind of magic. Egypt, if they play that same kind of style, they can definitely win it. They lost to penalties in the previous Afcon final. They're definitely going to be hungry enough. I think Salah is going to want to win an Afcon, and it could be his last chance to win an Afcon, looking at his age and the way he's performing for Liverpool. So Egypt needs work, but they can definitely do it. And that's it. I think that's it for the needs work, which leaves 3 countries. I don't have Tunisia on here, but leaves 3 countries. I'm going to have to add Tunisia in post-prod. I forgot them. Sorry, my Tunisian brothers and sisters. But leaves 3 countries in the category that I think won't win. And just because they won't win doesn't mean it's going to be a poor Afcon. For example, let's start with South Africa. South Africa, I think, will not win the Afcon. I think their ceiling is not high enough for them to win an Afcon, but they will go back to the Afcon, which is a positive. They're in a group of 3, and because of that, I think them and Morocco will go through. And they have a lot of interesting players that are, I think, playing top football at the right time. Players like Cassius Mailula at Sundowns, the striker. Players like... Tebo Mokoena in midfield as well. younger players, Njabulu Blom. Ronwin Williams is not as young, but, is captain. Has the experience of playing at an Afcon, Temba Zwane as well, Percy Tau. So I think there's a good mix of experience and youthful talent at the right time with, I think, a competent coach in Hugo Bruce, an Afcon winning coach, that I think that South Africa are going to have a good tournament. They're going to come back, probably get out of the group. But I still think that their ceiling is not high enough to compete with other nations. We're going to put Cameroon in the won't win category. And this one might be a little bit harsh. But I think it's just because they have Rigobert Song as a coach. And he has not impressed me as a coach. I know he qualified them to a World Cup. At the World Cup, I wasn't impressed, with some of his decisions. I just don't think that he's selecting his squad. This is all conjecture. This is all my personal opinion. But just from things that I read, things that I hear, watching things, I don't get the impression that he's a great tactician. I get the impression that players like him and want to play for him, but I don't think he's a great technical, tactical manager. And I don't think he's a great talent evaluator as well. I mean, we saw when he was calling up the former Cotton Sport striker, Swaibu Maru, he didn't even know his name at the press conference, which makes me, that gives me the impression that you're not selecting your squad, So with Song at the helm, I don't think Cameroon can win it. I do think they're talented enough to, but not with this coach, unfortunately, because I like the personnel, I like the player. I just don't like the coach. Finally, Tunisia. I just think that this great Tunisian generation of Youssef Msakni, Wahbi Khazari now retired, but Youssef Msakni, Ferjani Sassi, all these players like Yassine Mariah, I just think they hit their ceiling, they hit their max, and they're going down now. Similar with Senegal, but unlike Senegal have proven young talent coming into the mix, and their top players are still playing at top clubs. Tunisia, I just don't. Can you rely on Msakni for another Afcon? I don't know. Issam Jbali is going to be your striker. Naim Sliti again is like in the Msakni Sassi generation. Ali Ma'loul. These, for me, they're all on the wrong side of 30. They had a great generation. They qualified to 2 World Cups. They went pretty far in 1 or 2 Afcons. I just don't think that they can show us anything that they haven't shown us yet. So it's the same coach, the same generation of players. I like the midfield of, L'Eidouni, Skhiri. I like some of the younger players like Yann Valery and Hannibal Mejbri. But those young players, for me, are not ready to lead the team. The midfield is not enough to carry you to an Afcon title. So Tunisia, unfortunately, I love the country, I love the people, I love the team. I just don't think they're going to be able to create something that's going to be good enough to win the Afcon in 10 months' time. So that's my tier list. It's been a little bit longer, excuse me. It's my tier list. I have 3 favorites, 3 teams that I think won't win. It doesn't mean it's going to be a bad tournament, but I don't think they can win. And then I have 6 countries that I think just need a little bit of tweaks here and there, but they can win the tournament. But I'm super excited. I think this is going to be the best Afcon we've had in years. So many great teams, so many great players, and I'm very much looking forward to going to the Ivory Coast in a few months' time and covering it.